didn't watch Week 17 for some unknown reason, bearing in mind there was so many playoff spots at stake, especially for the AFC. The Colts got their ticket. It was a roller coaster. Xavier, how did you deal with last night's game?
About the third quarter, man, just started chugging beers. Can't lie, it was pretty rough there at the end. I didn't know what was going on. We were like 0 for 7 in the third quarter. Our defense was coming up big though. They kept getting stops over and over, so I was pretty happy about that. But that offense, man, we just kind of started struggling a little bit. But we finally brought it around. You saw Jonathan Taylor, 250 yards, Colts franchise record. That's really impressive. I was super happy about that. There at the end, we started to look like the team we should be.
Before the season started, I appeared on Shank Club, and they asked me where do I think the Colts will finish, what they reckon the record will be. I said 12-4, and when I said 12-4, I think the guys thought maybe I was being a bit of a homer, maybe I was being that guy believing in his team, but you could argue we should have been 12-4, maybe 13-3 with the way the season's gone. We will get back to the Colts, but I'm just going to run through the wild card round games that will be happening, I believe, all Saturday and Sunday next week. It's a super weekend, they're calling it. Okay, so the first wild card game that comes up, the Seahawks versus the Rams. A big game in the NFC. Who do you see coming out on top in that one?
I got to go. Seahawks just beat the Rams, man. But the Rams were without Cooper Kupp. They were without a couple key starters on that team. I got to say the Rams are going to take that one. I like Sean McVay a hell of a lot more than I like Cliff Kingsbury. Not to take anything away from Cliff Kingsbury, I'm just kind of like a Sean McVay truther. I really like his game plan, game in, game out. I like his game plan against the Patriots this year against Bill Belichick. Even Bill Belichick congratulated on him. Is really good. So whenever he needs a scheme, he's always going to have one. That's something he always does. Now against a team like Seahawks, it's going to be difficult. He has to have something that's going to keep that air raid type of system. It's going to keep that in check. I think he can do that. He's got the pieces. I mean, he's got a Jalen Ramsey for a Metcalf, stuff like that. But time will tell. It's going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be one of the better we see all postseason.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you taking the Rams, was it?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game. But I just don't think the Seahawks have the legs at the minute. I think they need to work out a few things behind the scenes. I know Jared Goff maybe isn't the best quarterback out there, but I think they've got enough weapons around the team to overcome the Seahawks. Next game is probably one as Colts fans. We really don't care who wins or loses, but it's the NFL. The NFC East Washington football team versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Do you want me to ask who you see winning that one?
I mean, you probably know the verdict. I got to go Tom Brady in the playoffs, but yeah, that game, I don't want to call it could be closer. That'd be like a piping hot take. They'd be like, Washington could keep this one close. I don't see it happening. I like that Buccaneers defense is super good, like all around super good. The offensive line, who obviously the best receiving core in the league, it's super good. Then they got Tom Brady. That team is just really underachieved all season. Mm-hmm. People have been like, just wait on it. They're going to break out. Just wait on it. And everyone's been waiting all season. Where is it? Maybe this is the game. They finally win that playoff game. They get that momentum. And then they, ride it out, maybe make the NFC Championship, maybe make the Super Bowl. It's going to be hard to tell. But playing some of the competition they're going to have to play in these playoffs, I really don't see that happening.
Yeah. I mean, my thinking is it's one of those games Tampa Bay should win. So that instantly puts all the pressure onto Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. Now, I imagine Tom Brady can handle the pressure, but can Bruce Arians? Obviously, great coach in the NFL, but because that's a team full of divas, isn't it? When you look at it, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it's about controlling egos at this point, keeping heads and keeping cool. And it could be a potential slip up, but you got to fancy Tom Brady in that situation.
Yeah.
So that's a whitewash pick for the Buccaneers from us and also the Rams. Now, massive one. That has massive implications on the Colts. Titans versus the Ravens. Now, me as a lover of football, I want to see the Titans and the Colts match up in the AFC Championship game. I think it'd be a fantastic end to a brilliant rivalry this year. It's also, if I'm got this right, it's a replay of last year's wild card round, if I remember correct, or something like that. They did play the Ravens and the Titans, walked all over them. Derrick Henry just hit 2K. Congratulations to him, fantastic player. If he wants to come to the Colts on a free transfer, he can do.
Yeah.
But who do you see? Do you see the legs of Derrick Henry or the legs of Lamar Jackson taking it?
I want to go. I want to go the Ravens this year. Now, last year it was really a shock that happened. Of course, Titans were 9-7. They come into the playoffs with this like crazy scheme. They completely changed it up. No one's seen this. Then defensively, they did pretty good. They were doing things they were supposed to against Lamar. They were limiting Lamar. Well, he had 550 yards total, but they limited him sort of. I mean, they made him turn the ball over a couple times. That's good. But the thing that I think is different this year is the Titans' pass rush is just like the fourth worst in the league. It's horrible. I mean, it really is dreadful. It's unfun to watch. Defensively, they're missing Adoree Jackson, so their pass rush to cornerback combo is really bad. I think Lamar is going to eat against this defense. I think if you can't disrupt Lamar like other teams have been doing this year, which has really kind of hurt him because of his injured O-line, he doesn't have the same O-line as last year. I think you're in for a bad game because I think Lamar Jackson unpressured is probably a top 5 quarterback in this league.
Mm-hmm. So Ravens for you, I would say, we played the Titans twice. We split it. One game we was brilliant. They was awful. The next game we was awful. They were brilliant. We played the Ravens. We wasn't at our best. They weren't at their best. I would just say I wouldn't fancy taking on Derrick Henry right now. I think that, I joke about it on Twitter, like saying Derrick Henry has a poster of Jonathan Taylor on his bedroom wall, stuff like that, just trying to get Titans fans to bite, stirring the pot. But no, obviously, Derrick Henry is a fantastic player. And there's one play they do on the goal line. They did it against us. They do it against every team, and everyone falls for it. They do the read option where, I forgot the quote, Hannah Hill pretends to hand it off to Derrick Henry, and he walks it in every single time. And I was watching the Titans-Texans game with very close interest, but I was like, how can you not stop that? But you can't stop a man who is on that fire, and I think Derrick Henry's going to carry his team through again. So that's a split one. Titans, Ravens. You're taking the Ravens. I'm taking the Titans. Next one. This is between two teams who one of the teams don't deserve to be in the playoffs. The Chicago Bears. And the second one, who I think will make the Super Bowl, in the New Orleans Saints. So obviously I'm taking the Saints, but just on the Chicago Bears, what a weird season for them, right, before we get into your prediction.
Yeah. It's been up and down. I'll say that. Has Trubisky earned another year there? That's a big question. I think that's the question a lot of people are asking in Chicago right now. A lot of people I'm seeing are saying no. They're saying get rid of Trubisky, get Zach Wilson or something. Well, now they get a playoff berth, so I don't think Zach Wilson's in your wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe Trubisky's the man to ride it out one more year, uh, which I wouldn't be surprised because I don't think Trubisky's that bad. When you talk about the Trubisky Darnold thing, I would take Darnold, but I don't think Trubisky's very far off of the potential that Darnold has. I think Trubisky's just, as it sits right now, literally has the second worst O line in the league. Allen Robinson is his only target. It's just, I mean, they got a couple other people that are pretty decent in that receiving core. It's just this team isn't overwhelmingly good, and I think Trubisky's kind of suffering from it. I think Trubisky's more of a guy that's not going to just elevate your team completely, but he can elevate it a little bit in the right circumstances. That being said, I'm pulling for the Bears, believe it or not. I don't hate the Saints or anything. I like Drew Brees. I like Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton and Drew Brees are two of the most competitive people to ever be in the NFL. But I got to say, that Saints defense gets pressure time and time again. This season, the last 6-7 weeks, you can count on three things: death, taxes, and Saints getting pressure because Mario Davis has been on a tear. So I'm going to go Saints.
Saints. So that's a whitewash for the Saints. I've just got this feeling about the New Orleans Saints. When you look at their roster, it doesn't wow you. You don't, obviously the stars on there like any NFL roster, but it doesn't go, wow, that's a fantastic squad. But there's just something about the attitude and the culture that, like you say, Sean Payton has built around that team that I really like in an NFL team. And I think they're a nitty-gritty team and they will drag every minute of the game out of you. And if you're not perfect for the whole game, they'll exploit it. Okay, so moving on to the last wild card round game. It's going to be a replay of Week 17. It's going to be the Browns making their first playoff run since 2003 or 4, something like that, up against the Steelers. We all know the Browns beat them in Week 17, but the Steelers were playing B team, C team, D team, whatever you want to call them, the reserves, the backups, the third strings. Ben Roethlisberger didn't even make the trip down to Cleveland. I think that's a bit disrespectful, but he's an old man, he needs his rest.
Yeah.
I like the story of the Browns in the playoffs. It's nice to see a franchise from where they've been and the fans who are stuck with them. I really appreciate that they've gone through a lot. It's going to annoy me because I'm going to see a lot of Woodwork fans coming out of the gutters with the hats and the scarves on the streets of the UK. And they probably don't even know who Baker Mayfield is, but that's just life, isn't it? So who do you see winning this one? It's going to be a tight one.
That's a good question. I was tweeting last night saying the Browns might be in the AFC Championship. This is, again, it's really tough. Now, does Big Ben change the trajectory of this game? He might. He might. I think he will. I'm going to go Steelers. That's just my gut telling. I'm just saying, that Steelers defensive line, they're mean, man. TJ Watt, that's a mean man. Cam Hayward, that's a mean dude. Everyone you look at, step onto it, mean. They're all just gruesome. They want to get off the ball. They want to hit you. They want to change that line of scrimmage, and that's something that the Browns have done all season with a Wyatt Teller and a Jack Conklin, J.C. Treader, Joel Bitonio. They've had all these guys up front that are going to move you, be physical, open up lanes for Nick Chubb. What happens when them lanes aren't there? That's the big question. And I think come playoff time, I think, a guy that's won a Super Bowl as a head coach has something up his sleeve and has had continuous success in this league. So I got to believe Tomlin's going to have something for Stefanski. Stefanski's been that guy that's had a lot of trick plays this year, so this probably should be a good watch. But I'm going to go. I'm going to go Steelers. That's going to be my pick.
Mm-hmm. I love the Browns in the playoffs. I think everyone loves an underdog story, don't they? Everyone loves that dog mentality. But I think Pittsburgh are just too big of a machine for Cleveland. I think a few Cleveland players might get a bit of a nosebleed. Get a bit overexcited, play with emotions rather than the talent that Cleveland team does have. And I think ultimately that will be the downfall. And that's not a dig on the Cleveland Browns. They've been fantastic this year. You look when we played Kansas City a couple of years ago when we got absolutely whooped in the divisional round. We play with our emotions rather than playing smart, and we just look silly in the end. But anyway, so that is a whitewash for the Steelers. So just going over them before we get to the Colts and the Bills. We got a whitewash for the Rams beating the Seahawks. We got a whitewash for the Bucks beating Washington. We're split on the Titans, Ravens. We got a whitewash for the Saints and a whitewash for the Steelers. Knowing us, we'll probably come to next week and none of those will come true. But anyway, on to the most important game of the wild card round. It's never easy to the Colts fan. And I remember saying to you, if we want to be the best, we have to beat the best. And we're gonna if we want to get to the Super Bowl, we're gonna have to beat the two best teams in the AFC at the minute. Tell me what you're thinking coming into this Bills game.
There's a lot. There's definitely a lot. It's going to be interesting to see because Josh Allen's still a young guy. How will Josh Allen respond to adversity, to pressure? Because we're going to get pressure. Eberflus, if we can't just get in the 4-man, we're going to send blitzes. He's got something up his sleeve. For God's sakes, he hasn't blitzed all year. It's time. Playoff time to send him. But I think that they're not going to be able to run the ball. No team really has against us all year, except for the Titans. And they definitely do not have the power run scheme that the Titans have. It's going to be interesting to see how Xavier Rhodes contains Stephon Diggs. That's going to be pretty much one of the biggest matchups we see all season. Any more on John Brown, I'm very confident. I think if we win that, it's just going to come down to the defense making plays because their defense has been improved, but teams can run on them. We've seen teams run all over them this year. I think we'll have no issue running the ball. It's just going to be, can we contain their offense?
Yeah.
And that's a big question mark, huge question mark. People can call me a homer or not. I believe in this team. I'm going to go Colts.
Like to hear it. You don't doubt your team. And what I like about this weekend, and I did tweet it, all the pressure's on Buffalo. All the pressure is on Buffalo to win. And, if they stall, say we kick off first and then they stall for a couple of drives, it's funny what pressure can do to young players. And, I look at our team and I think, yeah, we have young players, but we have Justin Houston, who's an old head. Darius Leonard is very experienced and has been at this point before. We have Phillip Rivers, the veteran quarterback, who's been in this situation, who has beat the Colts in this situation many of times. We have Frank Reich, who I didn't read much of the game, but is known for that famous game against Buffalo or for Buffalo. I can't really remember.
Yeah, 30 comeback. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. And the one thing I say we have to do is really, really, really crack down on our busted coverages. It's happened too frequently in the past 3 or 4 games for my liking. And please, if Matt Eberflus is listening to this, just get rid of the Tampa 2. Please just get rid of it. Scheme something different, at least bring 5 or 6 on occasion, because if you give Josh Allen time, he's just gonna rip you apart. And like any quarterback at this stage of the season, if you give them time, they're just gonna pick you apart. But what I do like for the Colts team going into this game is probably in conversation for offensive rookie of the year, and that's Jonathan Taylor. What a running back we have picked up in this guy. His season started slow. He had an injury. He was sharing reps with two other running backs, and he's still third in yardage, only behind Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook. That's fantastic reading for a rookie.
Yeah, he's a beast. No two ways about it. I got to say, I'm pretty proud I advocated for him all season. I was like, hey, it might take a little long for him to pick up on it. I really don't even think it was. I mean, yeah, his like progression through the holes, like reading what he's supposed to do. Yeah, that's definitely ramped up a bit during the last 4 or 5 games of the season. But the thing that really stands out is just his explosiveness. He'll make one miss, like that one where he took Schobert's ankles. He froze Schobert in the hole, acted like one right, took off left. It took him. Someone had to go out there and help him find his ankles. That was just fantastic, man. And that's something we haven't seen all year, and we were wondering, why aren't we seeing this Jonathan Taylor?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just maybe an ankle injury. After that Bears game, people were like, "Oh, Jonathan had an ankle injury," and Frank Reich was like, "Well, I'm the last one to know about this. Why am I the last one to know?"
Yeah.
So maybe he was dealing with something all year. Maybe he had to, just get right. Ice it, really get ready. But now, he's looking like the guy we drafted. 250 yards. That was impressive. That was super impressive.
A second round pick as well.
Yeah.
A second round pick, and the first rookie running back for the Indianapolis Colts since one of my favorite players, because he got me to love the Colts, Joseph Adai, reaching 1,000 yards. I know main Colt fans, if it's your main passion being a Colt fan, you will know about Joseph Adai. If you don't, he was a great running back, had great prospects, had a great first season, won the Super Bowl with the Colts in a great performance. And then I think he suffered a career-ending injury. Was it ACL or something like that? Snapped? Can't remember.
Something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, the first running back since Joseph Adai, who is one of my favorite players to do 1,000 yards as a rookie running back. And like we touched on, the armchair GMs, I like to call them, the people who sit at home saying, "Oh, I could have made that catch," when you see Travis Kelce miss it by inches, 3 men covering, and then the big bloke who's never played a game in his life goes, "I could have made that." Jonathan Taylor was a bust, apparently. I saw it. Colts fans already were saying, "Well, don't call him fans. Let's trade him away. He's done. He's not as good." But Chris Pollard has done it again, because Jonathan Taylor was a second-round pick. Michael Pittman was a second-round pick. They're 2 guys who you would look at the end of the season and say, how are they not picked in the first round?
Yeah. Michael Pittman, he was super impressive like day one to me. Just seeing how fast he was, how physical he was, how well he run blocked. It was like seeing a 6'4" Juju Smith-Schuster, like just on the field at the time. I was like, wow. I was really impressed. Jonathan Taylor, it took him a while, but now you're seeing what we drafted. He is a beast. 4.39 speed, 230 pounds. He's hitting you like a Mack truck in the hole. You step in front of him, he's hitting you like a Mack truck. That's the bottom line. Everyone hits him in his legs. And he actually gets a lot of broken tackles because of that, because a lot of people miss. He just sidesteps them when they go for his legs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be interesting to see next year how they're utilized, especially if we have a different quarterback. Then it's going to be a different system. I really don't know how JT will be implemented if we have like a more of a guy that's going to sling it down the field. But still yet, we're still on this year. I don't know why I just went to the next, but
yeah. Well, it certainly is going to be a tough ask to get past the Buffalo Bills. Bills Mafia did us a massive favour, winning against Miami in a convincing fashion. Let's talk about Miami because unfortunately they are the 10-5 team or 10-6 now team that didn't make it into the playoffs. But last night for me, yesterday for you to say, it was touch and go for so long. There was points where we could have been the 2 seed to where we could have been out of the playoffs completely. And that's why I love football.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Watching the games yesterday, there was one player who really stood out for me in the Colts and the Jacksonville game. And it wasn't a Colts player. It was actually Jacksonville young safety. I've got to get his name right now. Van Ginkel or something like that. Blonde hair, long blonde hair. I thought he played excellent in the run game. You look at the Colts offensive line, it's a very intimidating offensive line, especially for a young team, but he busted through a couple of times and he made some great plays. And we know that defense of the Jacksonville Jaguars has Miles Jack, but this young safety kid, I probably murdered his name, so all the Jaguar fans are going to come at me like, get it right. But I'm just going to call him Fan because that's all I can remember from his name. I would really like it if the Colts were aggressive in the offseason and went and picked him up. Because, in all honesty, I don't think we re-sign Malik Hooker. I'd love him to stay, but I don't think we re-sign him. I believe Kyrie Willis was out yesterday.
Concussion protocol.
Yeah, so we sort of need a bit of depth at safety. I'd love to pick him up. Did you see anyone on that Jacksonville team or from yesterday that you think you'd like to go and pick up in the offseason?
There's a ton of people I wish I could get from Jacksonville. Andrew Norwell, Brandon Lindor. I'd take either of those guys. It's a center guard duo. You could put either one of them at guard and they'd be just fine. Miles Jack, Schobert. I'd still take Schobert. He got his ankles broken, but shit. Schobert's a good hell of a player, man. He tries hard. So I'd take Schobert. C.J. Henderson, Taven Bryant. Taven Bryant is a crazy defensive tackle. Super explosive. Gets off the ball hard every rep. He'd be good depth, especially at the 3-tech. He's a 3-tech. When DeForest Buckner goes out, he would easily be probably the best defensive lineman on the field other than probably Justin Houston or somebody when he comes on. So there's a few people, believe it or not, Jacksonville has a lot to work with defensively. I don't know if I said C.J. Henderson, but he's their rookie corner. He's probably been one of the best rookie corners in the league. Speaking about Jacksonville, I was just reading on Twitter. That's kind of why I got distracted a minute ago. I was reading through this list. Urban Meyer wants $12 million to come out of retirement to coach Jacksonville. Yeah, that's a lot of money. They paid Jay Gruden $10 million to come down there and be offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So if they get rid of their current coach, they bring in Urban Meyer. They have Jay Gruden at offensive coordinator. They have Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. Jacksonville sounds like on paper a legitimate team again. And it's been 3 years since they've been decent, but in the last 20, how good have they really been? In all honesty, they've really struggled time and time again. But adding Urban Meyer to this team, getting Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville's going to be legit. We got to watch out for Jacksonville next year.
Being an Ohio State fan, I'm obviously a big fan of Urban Meyer. I thought what he did at that program was excellent. And it's interesting you say Urban Meyer come into the NFL because it's a completely different game. So you never know how he would do. But I wouldn't want to, no matter what level I was playing, I would not want to come up against an Urban Meyer team. It's like, you don't want to come up against the Bill Belichick team. I know the Patriots haven't been great this year, but it's just one of them things. You never want to come up against an Andy Reid team. There's just certain coaches who carry a stature about them into football. And I believe Urban Meyer's one of them. And like you say, if they have Urban Meyer, Gruden, Trevor Lawrence, that's a scary looking team. That's if I think he will, but that's if Trevor Lawrence does declare for the NFL draft. Yeah, he
very,
might.
very true. Yeah, he could just stay, right? He could just stay in Clemson. Now, I don't think he would do that. I mean, he's undeniably the first pick, right? I mean, I don't think anyone's taking Justin Fields over him. But yeah, if he did hypothetically go to Jacksonville, I like what Urban Meyer brings. He's a motivator. He's like Nick Saban. He's like guys like that. You know, some of the greatest coaches to ever just be in the NFL were motivators. They had a good defensive scheme, and then they had their people that would play. You know, one play at a time, all game, 60 minutes. They're going hard. They're clashing heads the entire game. Whenever they need fresh bodies, they're putting them in there. The scheme really helps with that, and that's something Urban Meyer does well. He puts his players in great position to win. Mm-hmm. So if he does come out of retirement, I mean, I'm an NFL fan before I am really, or a football fan before I'm, a fan of anything else. Obviously I'm choosing my Colts over everything, but I'd be kind of excited to see what Jacksonville can do with the Urban Meyer coach team.
One player who I've been impressed this season, and it's a young wide receiver named Chase Claypool. Wow. Now, that guy, I watched him against the Colts. I thought, this kid's fantastic. And I watched him against the Browns, playing with Mason Rudolph as his quarterback. That can't be good for any wide receiver, but, and he was fantastic in that game. And trying to work out what I want to say here because I want to get it right. When you get a player of that pure athletic ability, like your Jonathan Taylor's, like your Chase Claypool's, like your Pittman's, and just for other people, I'm only naming them because they're the ones coming to mind. I'm not just being a homer. Your Quentin Nelson's. When you get a player of that pure athleticism, can you turn that down? If you get what I mean. So when it comes to drafting Quentin Nelson at 6, everyone said, what a ridiculous pick. But did Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay and Frank Reich see athleticism of this monster of a man, or do they see talent, or is it a bit of both, or is it hard work beats talent, all that jazz?
I mean, I think they saw a 330-pound man that could move people 5 or 6 yards in the trenches by himself. Quentin Nelson, in my opinion, was like a no-brainer. We picked Quentin Nelson. I was hyped, and I was younger at the time. Like, I didn't really pay as much attention to the NFL as I do now. But you bet your ass I know about Quentin Nelson and McGlinchey in Notre Dame. The left tackle, left guard duo. They were beasts. Both of them went top 10. I mean, watching Quentin Nelson, his highlights, it was really apparent this guy was next level compared to everyone else. He came in, he was next level compared to everyone else. He was all pro his rookie year. And that's something that's not fluke. That's not, oh, we drafted him. We got lucky. He kept working his ass off. That's not what that is. Quentin Nelson was that guy coming in. This is casual fans, dude. They probably tuned that chatter out. They're like, yeah, to hell with you. We know who we got. But at the end of the day, I mean, you can't deny it. Quentin Nelson's been undoubtedly the best player on this roster for 2 straight years, now making it a third.
Yeah. Okay. What was I going to say then? I completely forgot what I was going to say. Too busy thinking about Quentin Nelson. Oh, that's it. Going on to the Bills. Now, I didn't think the Bills would do this good this year. I don't think Josh Allen was as good as what he's showing this year. I think, the Colts in run defense are fantastic. They had that one blip against the Titans, but I think overall the second in the league in run defense. It's passing defense where we sort of fall short a bit, and this is the whole bend, don't break method. As we saw against Jacksonville, it doesn't work in the NFL. You can't afford to sit off receivers in the NFL. How do you think, honestly now, do you think Matt Eberflus comes into this game with a different plan, or do you think he comes in with his same old scheme, same methods?
I don't know. I don't know with Eberflus. He showed me a lot of inconsistency this year, which is really kind of alarming. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, he's guaranteed a head coach job." I don't think that he's guaranteed a head coach job. I really don't. I don't think there's many teams that are looking at Eberflus like, "Oh yeah, you're surefire head coach material." You know, maybe earlier in the season, something like that. You know, he looked a lot better, but as of lately, like the Tampa 2 just hasn't worked. You know, it's a good scheme, and against the Bills, you know, how good is a good scheme going to do? You need a great scheme. Against an offense like the Bills, you need a scheme that's going to come in there and surprise people. And the Tampa 2 doesn't do that. That being said, we can run the Tampa 2 all we want if we're getting constant pressure, but they got guys like DJ Humphries on that offensive line and a couple other people that are pretty decent players. Their offensive line isn't the best, but they've held up this year. That's really the big denominator. If we're going to be able to run the Tampa 2, it's if DeForest Buckner, if guys like that can have a day, pretty much. That's what we have to see. We have to see him just kind of go off like he did against the Texans. Now, I think he can. We've seen him do it time and time again. He's the highest graded player on our team, at like an 89.7 or something like that, according to PFF. So he's a beast. He's going to do his thing. It's just going to come down to, can we disrupt Josh Allen?
It's funny you talk about Matt Eberflus getting a head coach job, because I believe the Jets want to interview him for the head coaching position after getting rid of Adam Gase. And I also believe the Jaguars might be interested in him. You know me, I'm not Matt Eberflus's biggest fan, but I don't want the poor bloke to end up at New York Jets with too much work to do as a rookie head coach. They need someone experienced. I'd love to see him pick up a head coaching job, but I'd like to see him maybe go to the Patriots I wouldn't like to see him go to the Patriots, but just thinking realistically here. The Chargers maybe with Justin Herbert. I was going to say the Patriots, but I realised they had Josh McDaniels back. There are teams out there for a Matt Eberflus. And Chicago fans are really calling for Chuck Pagano's head at the minute. I don't personally understand why, when you've got a defense that's so good and the offense is so bad, the defense are going to get tired. So maybe there's a bit of a carousel, and maybe we see a Chuck Pagano come back to Indianapolis as Frank Wright's right-hand man, or something like that. Do you see the Chargers maybe picking up Matt Eberflus?
Yeah. That would be, in my opinion, the best place he should go, because they got guys like Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa. And they got a good interior defender in Linval Joseph. They got a really good team to run a 4-3 scheme, probably better than ours, honestly. They just had a lot of injuries. Derwin James is going to be back next year, probably the best safety in the league. Well, he was when he was playing. Now he's 2 years removed. We're going to see if he's the best safety again. But Derwin James was an absolute monster. They got feasts every game he played. I watched. He was just killing teams. So it's going to be interesting to see. If he leaves, I would be really surprised. Again, if someone wants to take a chance on him, they can. But you know what you're getting. You know what you're getting. You're getting the Tampa 2. You're getting a Tampa 2 team. You have to have that roster. You have to have that personnel. Honestly, I think that's the only team that I could see really picking him up, and that's going to be the Chargers. I don't think the Jets have the team to run that. I don't think the the Jags have the team to run that. So if they picked him up, I'd be really surprised. Maybe they draft like an edge rusher or a D tackle in the draft or something, try to get him some extra players to help him out. But when it comes to set up, I mean, he's set up right where he is. He's got the personnel to run his Tampa to. He's got the safeties. He's got the cornerbacks, which we could use probably another cornerback. I'm kind of out on Rock right now, but if we had, I just see it really hard pressed that he would want to leave the situation he's in. Is kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah. Right. 40 minutes. Let's step away from the Colts. Moving on, then the Colts get through. They play the Chiefs, which is just absolutely a dreadful thought at the minute. I don't want to come up against the Chiefs on any day of the week. Whoever goes through as the lowest seed in the NFC has to play Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers throwing his hat in the ring for Offensive Player of the Year. Of course, Patrick Mahomes is throwing his hat in the ring for Offensive Player of the Year. Let's say the favourites win and the favourites get to the Super Bowl and we have a Chiefs and a Packers Super Bowl. Does the Super Bowl come to the AFC or does it go to the NFC?
Oh, yeah. AFC. I think it's coming home to the AFC one way or another. There's really, realistically, we could go on a Cinderella run. Like, we have a team built for that any day of the week. We're 7th seed, but our team is all around probably the most well-balanced team in the league from, all three phases of each side of the ball. But if it's Patrick Mahomes led Chiefs versus a Green Bay team that really struggles on defense at times, I'm going to be honest with you. I just don't see the Green Bay beating them. I know Matt LaFleur is a great coach. He's a great offensive mind, one of the best we've probably seen come into the league in a while. I'm a big Matt LaFleur truther as well. I like Sean McVay. I like LaFleur. I like Kingsbury. I like McVay. I like all them guys in the NFC. The NFC has a good set of head coaches, but I just don't think Green Bay would have the coaching defensively to stand up to a Kansas City Chiefs who you have to come to play. You can't when you play the Chiefs, you got to do all three things. Special team has to play good, defense has to play good, offense has to play good. If one of them things misses, you lose that game because Mahomes can put 28 on you in one quarter if he wants to. If he's feeling it, he's going to put 21, 28 at a time. So do I see Green Bay matching up with them? Well, not at all. I think the Saints would probably be the best matchup for Kansas City.
It's certainly going to be an exciting off-season. So that's been us talking for 43 minutes. My last question to you is, if the Colts lose next week, touch wood they don't, but if the Colts lose next week, has it been a successful season and is Phillip Rivers back?
Yeah. If we lose, it's still been successful any day of the week. Phillip Rivers being back would be based upon like two or three things for me, though. It just depends on who we can get. If we can get a Matthew Stafford, I would say pull the trigger. There's a few other people that would be gambles. Carson Wentz, but he'd have to readjust his contract. I wouldn't take $30 million on $35 million as it stands. But yeah, I would say Phillip Rivers is coming back just sheerly because of his knowledge of the game. His arm is busted, man. Watching last night, he was just making throws that, corner routes, out routes. It was just like the ball just didn't get there. It was just lofty. It was taking a while. And he's kind of having to throw his whole body into stuff. So that's kind of dangerous too as well. But from what I've seen of Phillip Rivers this year has been perseverance because he knows he's limited. He knows he's not the same player. Yeah, he's still playing hard. He's still competing at a very high level at the quarterback position. And I love that. If we can bring him back, he's going to do the same thing. Hell yeah, bring him back. Why not? But if we can get a guy that's going to be younger, like a Matthew Stafford, that's going to, solidify our position for the next 7, 8 years instead of 1, 2 years like Phillip Rivers, yeah, go for it. We need a guy to get in there and stay in the system for a while and get used to Frank Reich.
So that has been the NFL Monday show, as we have been talking for 45 minutes. And for once, it's not all been about the Colts. It's been other teams. We're trying to incorporate that more. Couldn't get a Titans fan on this time. We'll try, depending on results next weekend, we will try and get other fans on of other fan bases so we can all have a good laugh and stuff. The Colts bought their ticket to the playoffs. We are in the dance. It was a hard one. It was been a long graft all season. It's not been easy. It's never been relaxing, but that's just the way we do it in Indy. Just before we go, quick shout out to sponsor for today's video, Northern Summit Clothing. You can get great clothes there. It's well looked after. The guy really wants you to enjoy his stuff. He just doesn't want to sell you crap for the fun of it. He's not trying to sell shitty merch. He really cares about the quality of his materials. Check out Northern Summit Clothing on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Etsy. Got to thank my co-host Xavier, as always, for coming on the show. Xavier, what is your Twitter handle? What is your YouTube handle? And what's your phone number if you want to give that out?
If we were to, Twitter handle is going to be at I'm the HOA. And then if you want to find me on YouTube, it's going to be High Octane Analysis. That's ANALYSIS. And yeah, that's all my handles.
Go and check this guy out because he certainly knows how to break football down. Just before we go, TJ Carey. Woo, what a player. You shouted his name out, and last night he proved it. Like I said, we bought our tickets, and in the famous words of Phillip Rivers, Nuke Cheppy, baby, let's go. Just wait for it to come through.